What is going on, guys? Tonight we've got some recent reads, me using the DC Universe app. Never thought I'd go back to that. An upcoming show announcement right here on this channel starting tomorrow. And as usual, just a lot of recent pickups. And I brought some toys with me this time, some fun action figures. So stay tuned after the bumper. Hey, how's it going? My name's Carson. Welcome back, or maybe welcome for the first time. Like I said, tonight we got some recent reads. So this week I only got 2 books from the poll, and then most of my books that I actually read were on the DC Universe app. So I'll share those after these 2. So first off, I had to get the Batman, 428, the reprint edition where they actually insert the story that lost the big insert, send us quarters to DC if you want Jason Todd to live or die. This is, I guess, the edition they came up with if they wanted Jason Todd to live. So I was actually kind of surprised how much stuff stayed the same. I guess that way at least they didn't have to, make Jim Starlin, Jim Aparo, and all those guys draw more and come up with more story. Basically, there's just a few panel difference. Like Superman still gets punched in the face by Batman and almost breaks his knuckles doing so. But yeah, I mean, if you've probably seen a lot of the images from this online already, so obviously not a lot of surprises there. Spoilers, he died in the continuity, so does this really matter? Not really, just a fun little trivial fact of a book, basically. And then there's this Power Girl Uncovered. I don't know why I ended up getting this book. I think it was just one of those ones I thumbs up on the, the pull list digitally. So I ended up getting it in my stack of 2 books. And all it is just a book of covers. We're finally to the point where we're just making a comic of covers. I'm sure there was like a little story. Maybe it was probably like 6 pages total. It was all splash panel, I think, of just Power Girl being funny. I'm not sure when she became funny instead of an alternate version of Kara Zor-El. But anyway, if you like covers, you'll love Power Girl Uncovered. So those are my only 2 physical copies. Before I get into the DC Universe app summary, let's get into the chat. There's a couple people popping in here. We got Chris Barrett. Hey, yo. What's going on, man? I like to say, hey, yo. Great Legend is in the chat as well. He's clapping. You still got it. Thank you, Great Legend. He says, OMG, X-Men 4 behind you. You're a good hill. Yeah, it only took you a week. There's, I guess, just to spoil the fun Easter eggs I put for you, Legend. There's your favorite book, and right next to it is one of Comic Core Chad's favorite books right there. I put those 2 just for you guys, even though my head covers most of it right there, of course. Anyway, Chris Barrett says, I have an entire hardcover, just beautiful women from DC. I bought it from Rob Van Dam. Okay, we're always getting high over there. We got Wolf Blitz. What is going on, Wolf Blitz? Says, Seawood and Legend back at it. And Legend, he loves that jock cover, as everybody does. I think it's a 9.6 back there. I only get like 9.6s at best on those things. Yeah, Chad's actual favorite book, Nightwing 97, to which I will not go into further detail here. Anyway, let's get back to the gimmicks. I had to put a bunch of gimmicks on here just to describe what I've been reading on the DC Universe app. So let's go ahead, cue up some gimmick music, and then we're going to talk about some books I've been checking out on the DC Universe app. So recently, I have re-updated the DC Universe app so I could start reading some stuff, try to get back into the DC Universe. I've gotten so lost on what is actually going on. I'm still not sure if there's continuity, if you will, in the DC Universe. I really don't know. If someone could explain to me what's going on, hey, that'd be cool. But anyway, I'm trying out some books. It seems like they got some decent artists. They got some decent writers coming in to fix some things, hopefully. So I'll start with a DruManchu recommendation, actually. World's Finest. So this comes from Mark Waid and Dan Mora. So there's two names I already liked right there. So Mark Waid's one of my all-time favorite writers. I've been reading his stuff since I started reading comics when I was like, 10, 11, 12 years old with the Flash run and all of that stuff. And Dan Moore is probably, I would say, maybe DC's best artist currently. He's got a little bit of competition there, but he's definitely like one of the top 3 artists that DC has. And so far, I've really enjoyed this book. I always kind of like those Batman-Superman team-ups ever since the Jeff Loeb Superman-Batman 2003 run. They always just got some good team-up stuff going on. Really I'm trying to figure out when this book takes place, so I'm guessing it's prior to whatever current continuity is going on, because I believe Robin in this is the Dick Grayson time. So not only do you get the Superman Batman banter, but they team up on the side and get into their own hijinks and question what was going on there and all that stuff. But so far, some pretty crisp writing. I've really enjoyed this book so far. I'm getting ready to read the second volume. Somehow Robin's lost in time and they got to figure out how to get him back. So I'm really enjoying that so far. Next up, we got Wonder Woman, the Tom King run. I believe this was a recommendation from John's Comics with Kids, so check out his channel. He had some great shorts where he talked about some of his DC featured reads. This one is a Tom King. Daniel Sampier does the art. Tom King, he does fine on this. It definitely has some fun moments with Wonder Woman. Just basically fighting people without even having to try. But for me, there's still too much politics in my comics. I just, I don't like to talk about that stuff in the real world, and I certainly don't like it in my fun fictional worlds I like to read about too. So a little too political for me, but the Sampier art is really good. He's starting to become one of my favorite DC artists for sure. So I may keep reading this book, see where it's going, but once they said the words Amazon's Attack was going to be a miniseries, it gave me awful flashbacks to the Amazon's Attack from the 2000s. That was just dreadful, and it ruined the Teen Titans book for me that went on for so much. Another Tom King. We're going to say good things about Tom King down the line, I promise. But I also tried to read RoR Shack, and I'm sorry, this book didn't do much for me. I think that was my second attempt to try to get into RoR Shack, and I just couldn't do it. It had that like over-wordiness that Tom King likes to bring. It's kind of like Brian Bendis had for a while as well. And it has that dreaded checkerboard or tic-tac-toe board layout where it's just, it just seems plain and boring to me. And I couldn't stay focused on the story. Maybe I'll try a third time if someone gets in the comments or the chat and says I need to read this book. Maybe I'll give it a third try, but I'm having a tough time getting into that one for sure. Next up, I heard Jason Aaron was coming over to DC to write a few things. So one of the things that popped up on my recommended feed was Batman Offworld. And I don't know. I feel like he could have did a little better than this. The premise is really cool sounding. Basically, Batman gets caught by aliens, basically. And through these, I don't know how many issues it is. There's only 2 on the app so far. But you're basically going to see how Batman not only defeats an entire UFO of aliens, but gets back to Earth as well. There's some fun stuff with some Temerians on the ship with them that's not Starfire and a few other things. But I don't know. It just, at least Doug Mankey's on the art, and he's really good at drawing aliens as the Green Lantern stuff in the past has showed us. So I may check out issue 3 once I get that far. I tried to check out Steelworks. I always liked Steel. I collected the Steel comics when I was a kid. Of course, I was there for the death and return of Superman storyline stuff. So always had a soft spot for Steel. And when I saw this was written by Michael Dorn, Worf from Star Trek, that definitely was like, huh? So I definitely am going to check out more issues of this just out of plumb curiosity. Plus, just to see what's going on with, my DC characters, basically. Steel was kind of one of those characters I always kind of enjoyed as a kid, so I want to see what they're doing with him now. He seems like, overall, not too much has changed, even though everything's changed, if that makes sense. Like, apparently he's been dating Lana Lang, which I had no idea about. Of course, his niece is there, helping run the Steelworks company. So, yeah, I'm curious to see what Michael Dorn's comic writing chops are made of. And then I forgot to put the picture, so you're going to look at me again. So I read Action Comics 1061. I definitely had to check that one out because it was a Jason Aaron written issue. So once again, Jason Aaron gets my interest just to see what he's going to do with the content. And so far, that was actually really good. That might be like my favorite thing I've read on the app so far, just because it's a nice little turn on Bizarro. So you basically, the core of the book is a Superman versus Bizarro, but this one starts off, Bizarro can't find Bizarro World. It's just disappeared somehow. So Bizarro ends up on this world filled with magicians and stuff, and they try to fight him, take him out, kill him. But he ends up being the opposite of Superman. He loves magic. Like, he absorbs like all of their magic. He takes out all the magicians. So when he makes it back to whatever we're calling Earth DC now, Earth 1, Earth 0, whatever, Earth Prime, he ends up just annihilating Superman, basically. So that, and then Superman thinks he's won by the end of it, because Bizarro pretty much just, I don't want to spoil too much. I'll just spoil everything. So sorry. Bizarro disappears. He thinks he's crying. Superman does, crying ice tears. It's a tragic scene where, you know, Bizarro's insanity has just consumed him. But it turns out he may have cast a spell over Metropolis. Like, Superman, Lois are turning into Bizarro clones. Bibbo's bar, which, by the way, 2 thumbs up for featuring Bibbo. He's one of my favorite Superman Metropolis realm characters. His whole bar, except for him's turning into Bizarros. It's a crazy mess, and so far it's definitely my top pick of anything new I've read on the DC app. And then the last one, we're going to talk about one last read, and then I'm going to have an announcement, and then we're going to get to the chat, because I see a ton of stuff going on over here in the chat. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. I ended up reading this whole thing, but I'm not going to talk about this too much right now, because the announcement is tomorrow at 3 p.m. You might have seen on my channel. Modern Men is making its triumphant return tomorrow at 3 p.m. on my channel. We're breaking things up into 2 parts. So tomorrow we'll debut Modern Men Episode 1, Part 1. We're going to have Jason of ComicsMisexplained, JB from DiscoveryBayComics, and DruManchu, baby, are all going to be part of the first episode of Modern Men, where we read and reviewed Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. And we also talked about what we want to see from the DCU and James Gunn in the movies. So definitely had a lot of fun filming that review. I will debut it as a premiere tomorrow. I'm going to try to make that premiere, so stop by and say hi in that chat as well. Speaking of chats, let's get to the chat here. I gotta scroll way back up. We got a lot of stuff going on here. Scrolling up, we got Mr. Gretzky on the Twitch side of things. That's right, I'm streaming on Twitch. Why? I don't know. There's already like a spam bot that's reached out to me. I'm not even gonna highlight that one. Sorry, buddy. But we're gonna highlight Gretzky9966. What is going on, man? Legend says, I can rap to that nice tunes. Right? He can rap to a truck driving by outside. That great legend. He's one of the best. Chris Barrett says, there's no continuity anymore. Ever since Rocky ruined DC, they gave up. Oh, don't. Let's not get started on The Rock just yet. I do have to get caught up on that Shazam run. I started reading a couple issues of that, but when these things are like $4.99 at the store, it gets hard to justify wanting to buy a bunch of them, and the app definitely makes it a lot easier to access for sure. We got Ox Baker being mentioned by Great Legend in the chat, because DruManchu is in the chat. DruManchu, baby. How's it going, Drew? Gretzky needs to start reading some of his trades. We're still talking about Ox Baker in the chat. We're just going to skip the here. John's Comics with Kids. What is going on, man? Thank you, John, for putting out that recommendation video or little YouTube short about a week or 2 ago. It definitely gave me some ideas on what I need to check out on the DC Universe app. We got Tacoma Comics. What is going on, man? Long time no see. Definitely happy to see you in the chat as well. All right, what else we got going on here? Drew says, great crew showed up. One of the best in the biz. Seawood 19. Thank you very much. All right, let's see what else we got here. Let's get some organization done. I think it's time to show some haul here. We're going to show some comic book haul, and then we're going to take a pause, and then we're going to show some action figures, some toys. And I got to rant about at least one of them because I haven't had a chance to show the McFarlane Animal Man yet. But that's coming up. Spoilers, I guess. Let's get some. Since Legend likes to rap, let's get another fun little gimmick going here. All right, here we go. Went to an antique shop last week, got a few finds, nothing too crazy. Honestly, just trying to find things in the wild. I don't know if more people are just selling online or keeping things because some of these prices are cooling down. Or maybe it's just me because I have too much stuff that I don't want to like over hoard, basically, even though that's kind of what I do anyway. Got some $2 finds. Got this Young Avengers Presents Patriot for $2. I do love me some Young Avengers, and ever since all this, movie news has been coming out for what seems to be forever now, people are hoarding these books. They're charging a lot for them. So anytime I can find the original run stuff or even these one shots for $2, those are going in the collection for sure, because I do need to reread the Young Avengers Volume 1 again. I remember reading that and liking it a lot. It's the same thing for Volume 2. So I was happy to pick this up because I did not have it in the collection. We got this fun Frank Bruner Unknown Worlds book from Eclipse Comics. I've never seen this before, but I've talked before several times on this channel how much I really enjoy the Frank Bruner Doctor Strange run. So when I saw this is one of two, it says, so I'll definitely be looking out for that second one, hopefully at some point. I do really like some Frank Bruner art, especially around this late 70s and 80s stuff. Did a lot of good stuff on Doctor Strange, so I look forward to cracking this open. Slowly starting to collect the Green Lantern, Green Arrow reprints from the, they did these in like the early 80s, the O'Neill and Adams stuff. So when I saw these for $2, I just couldn't pass them up. So I do have like all of the original printings, but I definitely wanted to get these reprints just to have them to flip through. Plus, they're in pretty nice condition for $2. I mean, come on, why not? Why would I leave these there? Then, especially this one, the Speedy Drug issue, because everybody has to have that in the collection. Had to pick that up. I know the Great Legend will like this. We got the Black Adam, #1, first solo title, even notated it on the book. So I may already have this laying around somewhere, but for some reason I decided to throw up my stack again. And then anytime I see these first run NYX books, I just pick them up. So got the last issue for $2. I think the only one I'm missing now is probably #4. So like the second appearance of X-23. But I don't think I had that one. I could be wrong. And then I got two $5 comics from the guy's lockup case. So I got a ROM Space Knight #1. Legend, you'll like this. This one's just for you. If I could find the gimmick. Too many gimmicks going on here. Newsstand. Yeah, probably didn't matter, when the 40 centers were up as a newsstand or not. But hey, I think that's literally my only opportunity to do the gimmick. So there you go. Got a ROM because I got like a whole run of ROM, but I didn't have the first issue, and now I do. And then maybe the biggest potato book I've ever bought, at least in recent memory. And I think I just got excited that this was an issue 11 of a Silver Age run. I didn't really notice until I got home. If I was going to send this out for CGC grading, they may give me the first ever negative score. This is Justice League of America #11, probably the late 50s. Trying to slowly, run build where I can, like the first sub 100 issues of Justice League. Obviously, getting those like top first few issues is going to be near impossible, especially at the $5 price point. But hey, sometimes you roll across an issue 11 for $5, and you just buy it, don't even question the condition whatsoever. I just hope it's complete. I haven't cracked it open yet. I'm kind of afraid to crack it open. I might just like dissipate into dust. This thing's so beat up and destroyed. But $5, I wasn't gonna leave that there. All right, let's see what's going on in the chat. We'll get into some more books after that. Fox had to get his stuff in. All right, Chris Barrett says, made a rather big action figure purchase around Thanksgiving. Got drunk and bought a Mattel Creations LWO 5-pack. Wow, I didn't even know they made any of those figures of the LWO. All right. We got Chaos in Comics. You guys still exist? Yeah, sort of. We're still here. But nice to see you in the chat. We got Great Legend says he would palms his books like his favorite wrestler, Andre the Giant. He doesn't do he like that Black Adam? And let's continue. All right. I got some whatnot purchases here. I believe the seller was called the Amazing J Brothers. He has a lot of like newer variants, but he also throws in some like random older like early 2000s stuff, like a lot of Turner I bought from him that I just can't find anywhere else. So I do like getting stuff from the guy, but then sometimes he has like packages like this for like $2 or $3 that have 2 books in them. So Spider-Man Lost Hunt, love me some Craven Last Hunt, so I had to get that. Plus, I just like this cover here. It's a good set there. Had to show some turtles tonight, so he had a lot of these turtle variants I just don't see in my local shop. So there's the black and white on the Turtles Usagi Werewind #1. And then here is this comic exposure variant that looks like a video game cover, even though it is way too stylized, down here, but it looks cool on the top, I guess. So I'm not really sure what they were going for, but I kind of think it's all right. So I had to have it because it's turtles, basically. I still have not read Last Ronin: The Lost Years, but I certainly have plenty of copies to go through. So we got issue 4, one of the retailer black and white covers. And then here is the color version of that. And then I was trying to swoop up all these in-Kyok lead covers. So once again, since they're virgin variants, none of these are numbers, so I'm definitely have to open these anyway just to see what numbers on the back. And then got a lot of foils. So I think this is a Titans #1 Art Germ cover with Starfire on there. So I don't know how I feel about these like modern foils. I feel like they're just trying to foil up anything and everything now that they can. And it just, whether it looks good or not, like I'm trying to think of the cover I saw the other. There's an older cover, but most of it had a black background, and then they make that a foil. Like, what's the point? Then they charge $10 for it. So just stuff like that's been driving me crazy at the local shops lately. And I feel like just the shops are the ones paying the price on there. But there's that. Like I said, the colors probably look nicer on the regular version. It just kind of looks washed out, but it's shiny. So there you go. Anyway, we're moving on. ASM 300, still don't have a normal copy, but at least I got a foil copy to flip through and read and all that fun stuff. And then here's one I never had as a kid and still haven't found since, but I was like, I basically grabbed the foil, The Vengeance of Bane, the first appearance of Bane. So, yeah, good for cooking baked potatoes. Thank you, Chaos and Comics. Yeah, if you focus hard enough, you might be able to boil an egg with the light reflecting off these foils. Got some first Spider Boys. Got the second and third print together. Got this cool cover on the Last Ronin Lost Day special. I like how they keep having to use the Turtles branding, the Last Ronin branding. Now there's this Last Day branding. These titles become too much of a mouthful. I'm sorry, but we got the Lost Day special, cover C. Just a random goofy Deadpool cover where Dogpool has a hand or his arm in his mouth. Retailer Summit from 2015. And then we had some like crazy ratios that somehow my bid just went through on the opening bid. So there's like a 1 in 500, Dark Knight Returns 3, I believe. This might have been like the 3 spin off the Golden Child. But Andy Kubert, still like his work. He did this cover. Thought that was cool. Got an Alex Ross cover on the Amazing Spider-Man volume whatever. I've lost track. I'm sorry. But anyway, it's a 1 in 75 and a first Cindy Moon, even though people love, just including the seller, love to call this the first Silk. I guess that counts, sure. But Cindy Moon becomes Silk in issue 4, what have you. Then I had to have the J. Scott Campbell. Volume 3, thank you, Chris. I knew you were going to come through and tell me what volume this was. So, got the J. Scott Campbell cover on that. And then just some fun incentive variants from Superman Unchained. Story wasn't great, but once again, kind of like J. Scott Campbell, I've always had a soft spot for Jim Lee art. So, cool 1 in 100 there. This was allegedly a 1 in 300 somehow. I guess they did order a lot of the original copies, like the issue 1 and the issue 2. They probably were highly incentivized. So that was a 1 in 300. And then the issue 6 was a 1 in 100. And then I know Drew, if he's still in the he loves him some DC Universe Rebirth 1 in 100. And then I believe this was the Scott Snyder Justice League 1 in 100 variant on that. All right. So let's get back into the chat. Let's see. I don't even know where we left off. Oh, yeah. The LWO 5-pack and existence and all that fun stuff. Let's see. They were trapped in the Phantom Zone, which is funny. But if you watch Modern Men tomorrow, there was actually a little discussion about the Phantom Zone. Actually, you might have to wait a week. That's in part 2. But anyway, Drew was trapped in a bear. We're going to go with that. We weren't broadcasting. I didn't make a video for 10 months because Drew was trapped in a bear hug. So there's your official answer. Also trapped in the negative zone in that bear hug. Pop Legend with the FF. John's Comics with Kids says, I got the foil for GSX #1. I am ashamed. I don't feel bad. I'm pretty sure that is lying around this room somewhere. So don't feel bad at all. Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel too. I hate foil covers. Look at all my foil covers. You got it exactly. You know how it goes. Cheaps on the outside. All right, we got some older books to show. And where I got this stack, I just took it off the shelf because I figured these would be fun to look at. So random stack of books that I haven't showed because I haven't made a video in 10 months besides the one last week. We got some GI Combat. I need to bag and board. Cool Joe Kubert cover with the Haunted Tank. So DC 20 center, but if they're cheap, I'll get them every time. We got Daredevil 193, another newsstand copy. One of the runs I'm still trying to run fill. Old Daredevil. I think this is just a free throw-in with whoever I ordered all these from. Spellbinders #3. Probably thought it was a cool cover. So got that. I pity the fool who doesn't like the A-Team. I think I found issue 1 the same day about this issue 3 on Whatnot. Some random Thors for like $1 or so. So Thor 266. Trying to run fill Tomb of Dracula because I do have a very good chunk of it at this point. But there's issue number 51. And then just, you can't go wrong with some Spidey. So I got Amazing Spider-Man 188. World's Finest. We got World's Finest 226. So slowly starting to get into these older World's Finest adventure comics and all that stuff. Definitely still trying to get, some 12 and 15 cent Supermans. We got some Spider-Man 168. I think a lot of these are doubles for me, unfortunately, but I keep hoarding Amazing Spider-Man for some reason, like everybody does, I suppose. Spider-Man 169. Got a little run, 170. And I need to do a heck of a lot of bag and boarding. As you guys can tell, we got a whole bunch. I'm just going to blow through these real quick so we can get to the toys. 167, Thor 263, Thor 262, lots of Thor. We got 254. Oh, Legend, you like this one. Marvel 2-in-1 presents The Thing and Doc Savage, issue number 21. I feel like we had a whole conversation about Marvel 2-in-1s and why. Probably the same night, I'm like, yeah, I should get that. It's Marvel 2-in-1. Thor 264. I knew someone was going to make that joke. I'll get back to the chat in a second. We got Fantastic Four 181. It's got some Amazing Spider-Man 164. FF 187. And a couple, called Novas right there. And that means I got tons of bagging and boarding to do. We're going to move this stuff off to the side. We're going to read the chat. And we're going to talk about some figurines, because if I say toys again, the whole chat's going to come after me. All right, let's see here. First, going to create a trip hazard for later here. All right, let's see what we got here. We got JLS Comics. What is going on, Jesse? Nice to see you in the chat. Great Legend gives him a go, Joe. He always does those awesome G.I. Joe videos, the origin of G.I. Joes. Chaos and Comics, he does love that low-hanging fruit. Is toys. All right, speaking of toys, we'll go ahead and show this one first. So Chris Barrett was talking about an LWO 5-pack. This is probably like my big splurge in the world of wrestling figures, at least. I found this at Target. I can't remember if I showed this on like the last live stream I did like 10 months ago or however long it's been. But I did roll across this like 93, 94 Monday Night Raw with like the Raw letters in the background. And, I kind of wish it would have came with like Big Daddy Cool Diesel instead of Undertaker, because I already got plenty of Undertaker figures around. There's one back there and then a couple others just in the garage basically. But I at least wanted the Razor and the 123 Kid. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. Comes with the Raw letters. The money, because I think this was around the time 123 Kid got bought out by the $1 Million Man. So, and then you gotta have that bad guy. So thought that was a really cool set. Debating if I want to open that or not still. I just kind of tucked the box on the side. And then while I'm showing some wrestling figures, Actually, before I do that, we got to change up the gimmick music one more time. I don't remember what I picked the other time. We'll Feed the Ducks. The song's called Feeding the Ducks. There you go. All right, I like it when they do the elites, except they're the older, characters / wrestlers they used to use. So I had to get Mr. Perfect with the Intercontinental Championship. He's got that towel that he can throw. Really cool figure, in my opinion. I can't remember. I mean, they probably had him in like the 93 line with the shorter figures. I don't collect those really at all. I know he wasn't one of the big rubber guys, unless I'm just misremembering. But cool to have, a good Mr. Perfect that's a scale for a lot of the figures in my collection. And then I really like this one, Terry Funk, maybe one of my favorite ones that's came out for a while from them. He's got, I think it's just the regular ECW. Yeah, it wouldn't be the TV, didn't hold that belt, but he has like the ECW belt he won, and what was it, Barely Legal 97, their first actual pay-per-view. And that's my favorite version of Terry Funk right here. That's the one when I was watching wrestling during, basically the Attitude Era. That's, what he looked like basically. So really like those two. And then, of course, I got to get those NECA TMNTs. I have more than this, obviously. I brought a few to highlight because, no one has all day. We got Usagi Yojimbo. I also have the Space Usagi. I think next week I'm going to do a video where I just ran on Space Usagi because I've been trying to get that first appearance to fulfill my TMNT Mirage run. And unfortunately, that's one of the last 3 books I need besides the original printings, which I'm not even going to attempt to buy right now because the prices. But there's one book in particular that has a high price just because Space Usagi is on the back. Anyway, we'll get into more on that next week. There is the regular Usagi figure, which I think is one of their nicer ones as of late. Comes with a lot of accessories, though. But I do like these like VHS tape-looking boxes they've been doing lately, even though it just means they're going to charge a bit more. But I do really like the presentation of this figure. And then these other two were kind of, they're almost big boy purchases in the world of toys, at least recently. But I didn't bring all of the setup for Kino, but I had to have the Kino figure. He's one of my favorite characters, especially like in Turtles 2, of course. I'm glad they got rid of, that redheaded kid Danny and brought in Kino. That was definitely a good upgrade. But to get this was like the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. It came in a giant pizza box along with, I think it came with like a shirt, like some other gimmicks and accessories. But I mainly just wanted this figure just because, I had all of the movie figures when I was a kid and they never made a Kino. They definitely never made the Danny, even though I ended up getting that figure in a mystery box later down the line just because, I got to catch them all basically. But I had to have the Kino. I think there's another one floating around out there. It just came out recently. But definitely really wanted this. And then the last turtle one I brought to highlight today is this big boy. Now, I'm not a big fan of this movie, Turtles 3. I could tell you, I could have a whole rant about that as well. But I will say, these are some very nice looking Ninja Turtle figures. And I was like, if I'm going to get this, I'm at least going to get the big boy 4-pack. So a lot of really cool detail. Cool time lanterns in there. A lot of awesome stuff going on here. So I was like, if I'm going to get these turtles, I'm at least going to get like the coolest version of these turtles. So yeah, a lot of great detail there. It might be like probably some of their best for sure recently. And then the last 2 figures I'm about to highlight, got some Target exclusive McFarlane's. Had to get the Red Tornado. I know, Drew, you're a huge fan of Tornado's Path Justice League run by Brad Meltzer. So there you go. Some Red Tornado action right there. Kind of like how Standy's an actual Red Tornado. And then the figure that I put him in the box just to build the box because I didn't want to pay too much shipping for this guy. But I had to have the Animal Man. Like, I had to have. But where's the coat? Like, come on. Like, I mean, the back of the box. He's wearing the coat. Any comic you read him in the 80s, like in his prime, he was wearing his coat. Then they just gave him an animal and a weird hand. At least you can put regular hands on him. But come on, like, I don't want to go online and have to buy a coat that costs as much as this figure. Ugh. Anyway, glad they made an Animal Man, but I'm going to need another one with a coat. Like, come on, like, that's to be like, at least in the 90s, like somewhere back there's Connor Kent Superboy. Like, it's not a soft goods coat, but at least his character was wearing his leather jacket. So there's my 2 cents on all of that. So let's get back into the chat here, and then we'll have a little bit of a sign off because that's about all I had to talk about tonight. So not too much. Fair, I keep it a little slightly short. So I guess half hour is not too short. Let's see where we left off here. Chaos in Comics says, Mr. Perfect was my favorite wrestler for a bit. And Drew says, back when wrestling was wrestling. For sure, man. Yeah, I think we all know what you mean by that. We got aggressively relaxing, hanging out in the chat. What is going on, man? Nice to see you in the chat tonight. Chris Barrett says, that could have been the kid that came into the Fed to deal with Scott over him beating him. Yeah, that too. I mean, they did have their a lot of great feuds over those first few years of Monday Night Raw. JLS says, WWE pissing fans off right now with the Cody Rock Reigns screw job. Yeah, I feel like this is one of those times where they're like, we have to do this. And it's kind of like the Daniel Bryan stuff where they're just like pretending that was the plan the whole time, even though it's really not. Like, so we'll see what happens. I'm sure either way, the WrestleMania is going to be good this year. I just have that feeling. Like, usually, like every 10 WrestleManias, especially, like 10 was great, 20 was awesome, and 30 was awesome. I hope they better not screw up 40, basically. I won't go too much into that right now, but I feel like they're hearing the fans pretty loudly right now, whether they want to or not. Chris Barrett says, oh, great, Terry Funk. I got the Hogan Terry Funk 2-pack from Saturday night's main event. Yeah, definitely look for that Funk. It's a really cool figure, but definitely my favorite of the elites they've done recently. I think there's a few out now that I need to check out too that I've missed out. It says, Terry, does he come with a sick horse? Oh, that'd be awesome. Drew also says, Keno greater than Danny. I think about everybody would agree there. Chris Barrett says, why does Animal Man come with a horse but not Terry Funk? Terry Funk, I mean, yeah, Terry Funk at least, came with a belt. He didn't even get a jacket. Anyway, Meltzer needs to stick Kenny 6 times. Okay, we're two different Meltzers there. They have to do this. And 20 was the best. All right. We'll do one last plug here for Modern Minute, and then we're going to go ahead and sign out if I can find the right gimmick here. All right. Tune in tomorrow at 3 p.m. or just anytime you want, tomorrow afternoon, evening, at night. We're going to have Modern Men Part 1, Episode 1, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. But we're mainly going to talk about what we think of the DCU and what James Gunn's going to do and what we want him to do in tomorrow's episode. And then the follow-up will be Part 2, where we review Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. So definitely stay tuned to the channel. Check that out. I think I went ahead and put down below on this live stream the links to everybody joining me in that, as well as the original Modern Men Run in a playlist. So definitely check that out if you'd like. But big thanks to everybody who joined me in the chat tonight. Really appreciate it. If you guys have any recommended reading at all, especially on that DC Universe app, or just basically if it comes out a month later, I can read it. So if you got any favorite DC reads, even the old ones, everything's on there pretty much. Hit me up in the comments and tell me what I should be reading, and I'll talk about it next week. But until next time, news stand.